Real Madrid. Real Madrid. That was too close for comfort. Let's call it what it is. That was too close for comfort. That was not the way most Real Madrid fans would have wanted to progress tonight. Because, man, Atletico Madrid made you guys sweat for that. And I have to say, guys, I feel for Atleti tonight. I think this is a harsh way to go out. They've lost on penalties. They've won on the night, but they've lost on penalties. And it'll be Real Madrid instead playing Arsenal in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But the way tonight was played, I feel for Atleti. I feel for them. I think they were the better team tonight. First of all, let me say this, right? Over both legs, the football on display, the quality, the intensity, the intent, incredible. I think tonight could have been a Champions League final and no one would have been able to tell me different. It was that good of a game. Both sides willing to die for this. The quality on display everywhere across the pitch, incredible. The aggression, the loudness from the stadium, the intensity. It felt like you were watching two of the best teams in the world play. And I don't think you always get that from the Champions League. Tonight, it really felt like that. The stakes felt so high. Some guys rose, some guys didn't. We're going to talk about them. But at the end of the day, it's Real Madrid going through, and it just feels like that's the story of the Champions League, right? Gary Lineker obviously has this quote from years back of like 22 men compete on the pitch for 90 minutes, and after the game, the Germans win. Swap that out with 22 players play a Champions League game, and at the end of the game, Real Madrid win. Like, it just always feels like they get it done, and I think they're a little fortunate tonight, especially with that penalty shootout, man. I think let's leave the penalty shootout till the end, right? Let's talk about what happened during the game. Within 30 seconds, Atletico Madrid equalized on aggregate, made it 1-0 on the night, 2-2 on aggregate. Conor Gallagher, maybe a surprise inclusion in the starting 11, getting on the end of a cross into the box, a flick on from Alvarez, stabs it home past Courtois, 2-2 on aggregate. All of a sudden, Real Madrid's lead from the first leg is absolutely evaporated. And Atletico, with the entire Wanda Metropolitano, or as the comments were telling me, now it's being called the Riyadh Metropolitano. Allow it. I'm calling it the Wanda. Like, guys, I just stopped calling it the Vicente Calderon like 2 years ago. Like, I finally got accustomed to the fact that it's now the Wanda. And now they're changing the name on me again, man. Allow it. Wanda Metropolitano, man. That stadium was bouncing today. And to be fair, since they moved into that stadium, it's been one of the craziest atmospheres in Europe. And you know when the main rivals are in town, wow, they show up. Atletico Madrid fans show up for these kinds of games. And it felt like a war. Honestly, watching that game, it felt like war. It felt like 11 guys on Atletico Madrid who are willing to die for Diego Simeone. And this is why, for me, Diego Simeone is one of the greats of the game. Honestly, he's one of the greatest managers, in my opinion, of all time. Forget about of his generation, of all time. Because the way he's able to continue reinventing this Atletico Madrid team and basically rebuilding it over and over and over with new protagonists every single time, and they all play a similar mentality to the one before them. And that's literally leaving blood, sweat, and tears on the pitch after 90 minutes. I give him so much respect, man, because look, they don't have the quality of Real Madrid. They don't have the academy of Barcelona, but man, they managed to compete with the two of them year in, year out. Tonight, over 90 minutes, they made Real Madrid fight. They made Real Madrid fight for every single loose ball, every single second ball, every single pass, every single header, every single cross, every single shot. Real Madrid had to fight. Atleti made it a war tonight. I think they're really unlucky tonight, man. I think they missed some big chances. I think they really nullified Real Madrid, especially in that first half. I don't think Real Madrid could get it going whatsoever in that first 45. And in the second half, Real Madrid were a lot better. But I still think over the course of the game, Atleti tonight were the better team. Now, I'm not going to say they were robbed of the entire tie, because I think the first leg, I think Real Madrid were better. But ultimately, it goes to penalties. But before it even goes to penalties, there was a penalty in this game. Kylian Mbappe, who was, in my opinion, yet again tonight, pretty non-existent, right? I think himself and Vinicius, over these 200 plus minutes between the two legs, have been either really poor or just flat out not even there. Tonight, Mbappe, the ball is bouncing off his shins. He's unable to get it under control. He's running into traffic. Really, really disappointing showing from him yet again. And Vinicius is like, wow, this is an all-time performance from Vinicius. But it's not an all-time great performance. It's an all-time like horror performance from Vinicius. The amount of times, we know with Vinicius, right? He's relentless. That's my favorite trait about him. And he also plays very emotionally. And I think it's a good thing because it is who he is. The reason Vinicius is one of the best players in the world, the reason some people think he's the best player in the world, is because he just plays angry and emotional and direct and wow, it's like 100-mile-an-hour player, and he never stops running. When he's on it, you have one of the most unstoppable wingers in the world. When he's not on it, guys, when it's bad for Vinicius, it's bad. Like, when he's bad, he is bad. You don't get 6 out of 10 performances from Vinicius. I feel like you get 9 or 10, or you get like 4 or 5. And unfortunately for him, the last few months, you're probably leaning towards the former, or leaning towards the latter, man. And tonight, again, it's just a night where he tried. You can never accuse him of not trying, of ghosting. But wow, maybe ghosting would have been better tonight, because the amount of times he just got on the ball and just lost it over and over and over was ridiculous. At some point, you're just thinking, like, are you going to switch it up at some point? Are you going to realize that whatever you think you're getting from the right back isn't there? And I don't know, switch your game up a little bit. It wasn't happening. And yeah, fairs, man. But Jude, who I think was really quiet the first half, but once Modric came on, kind of dropped a little deeper, and I thought started to grow into the game, passes it into Mbappe's feet near the halfway line. Mbappe looks up, oceans of space to run into, and that's Mbappe's specialty. 2 defenders on him. Weaves in, weaves out, into the penalty box. Clement Lenglet, who was sensational tonight, pulls him down. Referees points to the spot. Penalty Real Madrid, with the chance to tie the night and lead on aggregate. And I think the entire world was expecting Mbappe to step up for the penalty. First of all, because he won it, but also, talk about big clutch moments from the spot. I'm sorry, let's not forget that this guy scored twice in a World Cup final from the spot. When it comes to ice water in his veins and clutch moments from the penalty spot, that's Kylian Mbappe. He's shown it time and time again. Instead, it went to Vinicius. And I'll be real, guys. This is why, for me, I will never, ever, 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 ever be a fan of changing penalty takers throughout the season. For me, it's utter woke nonsense. That's not the way I see things. I know Arsenal were doing it a few seasons back, right? They were giving Havertz penalties. Odegaard takes them sometimes. Saka. Chelsea last year, I remember, what's his name? Madueke and Sterling are trying to take penalties off Palmer. This year, Vinicius is giving Mbappe sympathy penalties. Jude's taking some. Tonight, it's Vinicius, and Vinicius with the worst penalty you'll ever see in your life. Like, wow. I can't think of many penalties that are worse than what I saw tonight. The guy sent it into Rosette, high and wide. I don't know. Everyone can miss a penalty, right? But I just feel like the chance that you miss it like that, or the uncertainty around it, is so much less if you just have a designated penalty taker. Like, why was it tonight Vinicius took it, but 2 weeks ago Mbappe took it, and then 2 weeks before that Jude took it? Why? I don't get that. There should be a designated penalty taker, and in my opinion, the best goal scorer on the team, unless you're like a specialist like Jorginho or Bruno, they should be taking the penalty. Maybe I'm old-fashioned in saying that, but I can't understand this new phenomenon that you just share penalties with guys. I don't get it. And in fact, from the era that I grew up watching, the goal scorer in the team usually wants to hog the penalties. He doesn't want to share it with anybody. That's more goals for my tally. I don't know, man. I don't know. For me, I don't really get it. But I'm not on the team, so fair enough. But Vinicius misses the penalty. And from that moment, I can't lie, I think Real Madrid were starting to grow into the game. I think before the penalty, second half of the game starts to the penalty, I think Real Madrid were in full control. When Vinicius missed that penalty, I can't lie, I felt like the momentum kind of shifted back to Atletico's hand. And I think Atletico ended the second half really, really strongly. Goes to extra time, and this is where I thought Atletico looked really, really dangerous, because Real Madrid make basically all their substitutions, right? Mendy goes down, they take him off. Modric goes out, they bring Fede into midfield, they bring Vasquez on. Tchouameni comes off, they bring on Camavinga, who I thought was really, really good when he came on. Vinicius comes off. Rodrigo comes off first, and they brought on Brahim Diaz. And then in extra time, they take off Vinicius, and they brought on Endrick. Now, you guys know where I stand when it comes to star players leaving games early when the game's not decided. This is, again, I'm going to sound like an old head, but I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. As a player of Vinicius's caliber, bro, if I see my manager going on to bring someone on for me with 10 minutes left in the Champions League game, penalties looming, I'll be real, I'm dying on that pitch. If I'm Vinicius. And look, obviously, I say that like tongue-in-cheek, but understand what I'm saying, right? I'm saying that from the perspective of, like, I've seen Cristiano Ronaldo, I've seen Lionel Messi, I've seen, Zlatan. I've seen all these great players, right? From the era that I grew up watching, you never take these guys off, no matter how bad they're playing, because you live and die by your stars. I don't think that's like the same thing these days. Like, I see a lot of managers now. Like, I remember last year, Pep took off Haaland, and to be fair, Haaland ended up being injured. But I remember when that happened, I couldn't understand it. And I've seen it a few times now, but like, I just can't ever imagine Barcelona tied 1-1 or losing 1-0 on the night, heading to penalties, 10 minutes left, and Guardiola or Enrique goes and tells Messi, yo, come off. I'm bringing Isaac Cuenca on. It's like, it's bewildering to me. I can never imagine Real Madrid 1-0 down and Ancelotti or Zidane telling Ronaldo, You're off now. You're off. Like, it's impossible. No matter how bad they would be playing, it's impossible. But I don't know, man. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe I sound like just like an uncle right now, bro. I don't know. But that was weird for me to see. However, the game ends up going to penalties, and not for a lack of trying, because honestly, Atletico, like I was saying, they started pushing. And we know, I've said it so many times on this channel, Atletico, in terms of in-game substitutions, are the best in Europe. Nobody utilizes their bench better than Diego Simeone. The amount of times he just brings on 4 or 5 guys with 30 minutes left to play, 40 minutes left to play sometimes, to change a game, and they end up doing it, it's the best in Europe. Whether it's Sorloth, Correa, Molina, it doesn't matter. He is incredible at utilizing his bench, and I don't think anyone in Europe does it better than him. So when I saw Real Madrid all making all their subs, and I thought they were getting weaker, and I see Atletico bring on all their troopers, I'm thinking to myself, yo, stadium is bouncing, Madrid look exhausted, Atletico look like they got a second win to them. Is this the night Atletico kind of break this duck in Europe against Real Madrid? And it just wasn't to be, because it ends up going to penalties. And this is where, for me, I just have so much sympathy for Atletico Madrid, man. I have so much sympathy. First and foremost, people are going to not like me for saying this, but whatever. I say what I feel. I always think when you go into a penalty shootout with Jan Oblak in goal, you start the penalty shootout basically down 1-0. I felt the same thing with David De Gea for years. Now, Oblak saves a penalty in this shootout. Fair enough, it was a bad penalty by Vazquez, but he saves one. But that penalty save on Rudiger, or that attempted penalty save, I'm sorry, guys. I understand penalties is a lot of luck. Goalkeepers aren't expected to make the save. But come on, like, how do you excuse that? How can you excuse Oblak not saving Rudiger's penalty? He's a world-class keeper. In terms of shot stopping, Oblak has arguably been one of the best, if not the best, goalkeeper in Europe this year. He's been incredible. But from penalties, I can't understand why he has like butterfingers, bro. I remember the 2016 Champions League final will never leave my memory, ever. Like, his display in that performance was awful. And granted, to be fair, he saved the penalty against Ronaldo last Euros. But I just never feel confident going into penalty shootouts with him on the team, ever. And I felt the same thing about De Gea. And I can't understand how sometimes, like, you have a goalkeeper like Emi Martinez, who isn't 1/10 the goalkeeper of Oblak. But in penalty shootouts, he just rises. He grows into himself, where Oblak almost seems to shrink a little. It's I guess that's the mechanics, the science behind penalty shootouts, right? It's why it's not as simple as just shoot the ball well and you score. It's a mental game. And I think Oblak massively suffers from that. But here's where I feel bad for them, right? Here's how it goes. Mbappe shoots first, he scores. Sorloth shoots next, he scores, 1-1. Jude Bellingham shoots, he scores. Alvarez steps up. Alvarez slips while shooting, goes into the roof of the net, he scores. Real Madrid's turn to shoot. Or so we thought. All of a sudden, the referee is hearing in his ear, might be a violation. They think Alvarez slipped, shot it with his right, went off his left, and went in. Referee watches it back, no goal. The whole stadium, I don't even know if the stadium was aware. Honestly, it happened so quickly. I don't know if the stadium even knew. But guys, I understand it's a rule that if you shoot the ball and it hits off 2 feet, it's not a goal. I understand that's the rule, but I don't understand this rule. I don't understand why you should be penalized by basically the goal doesn't count and it counts as a miss if you slip and it hits 2 feet. I can't understand it because, guys, hear me out here. If you stutter on your penalty and stop and then go again and shoot, the penalty is void, but you retake it. As a goalkeeper, if you step off your line, the penalty is void, but you retake it. Why, if you slip and the ball hits one leg and off the other and goes in, is it not void, but you retake it? Why, in that situation, is it just flat out a miss? Flat out, you didn't score. I don't understand it. I understand it's a rule. I'm not trying to say, they created a rule for Real Madrid. Because I remember Mahrez a few years ago, the same thing happened to him. I think it happened recently as well, too, to a player this season or last season. But I don't understand it, guys. I genuinely cannot understand why that's a rule in football. Someone has to tell me like the reasoning behind it. I think it's extremely harsh. And I feel for Julian Alvarez, man, because it's not like he's trying to create an unfair advantage here. I get it. Like, it's not like he should be given the goal, but retake it. I think it's extremely harsh. However, Valverde takes the next penalty. He scores. The next one, I think, went to Lenormand. Was it him? I think it was. He almost slips again. He scores. Lucas Vazquez steps up. And I can't lie, for as long as I've been watching football, Vazquez has been cold-blooded from the spot. In fact, you often see him walking with the ball from halfway. He's like juggling it on his head. He's juggling it. I remember against Atletico in the shootout in 2016, City last year. You're expecting him to score. Really, really bad penalty. Oblak saves. All of a sudden, you're thinking justice is served. Okay, there's the Alvarez goal kind of chalked off. We can go into this fairly again. And then Llorente, man. What he's doing with that penalty. I'll never understand guys who go that high with that much power, man. Honestly, like I get wanting to hit it as hard as you can and just hit the target, but I just feel like you're leaving it so much the chance when you hit it like that. Seriously, I like the penalties, man, where it's just placed firmly. I'm not saying pass it softly, but placed firmly into the bottom corner. No goalkeeper is saving that, man. Like the way Llorente hit it, man, it leaves too much to chance. I'm never a fan of players taking penalties like that. And then just like that, it's in Real Madrid's hands. Rudiger to win it, just like he did against City last year. And as I said, man, Oblak, how? You got a hand to it. It was a rubbish penalty from Rudiger. It was right there for you to save. Slips in. Real Madrid win it. They advance to the next round. It's harsh on Atletico. I'm not going to say like Real Madrid weren't deserving winners over 2 legs, because I think Real Madrid did enough in the first leg. It was a tight tie, man. It was very, very well contested. But I feel like it's a harsh way to go out by Atletico Madrid. And now we will get Real Madrid versus Arsenal for the first time since 2006, where obviously historically Thierry Henry rocked up to the Bernabeu, scored that goal, and Arsenal actually beat them in their only meeting in their history. How is it going to go this time? Now, I think Atletico Madrid would have been very difficult for Arsenal. That mid-block, the way they defend, the aggression they play with, going to the Wanda, I think Arsenal would have lost to Atletico Madrid. That is not a tie for them, man. But I look at Real Madrid, although I think they might find a little more success creating chances because Real Madrid play a more expensive game than Atletico Madrid. I just think, right, this might come back to bite me, man. This really might come back to bite me. But I don't see a single world where Arsenal knock out Real Madrid. I don't see it. I just don't see it. That's not to say I think Real Madrid are a perfect football team, but I just think Real Madrid have too much experience and too much quality for Arsenal. No matter how well Arsenal could play on the night, I just don't see them beating Real Madrid over 2 legs. I cannot. I barely give them 1%. That's not to diss Arsenal as a team, but both these sides, the makeup of the sides, the quality, the experience, the managers, I don't see how Arsenal beats Real Madrid. I don't. So I have Real Madrid going to the semifinals, man. Credit to Arsenal for getting this far. I think the PSV tie was very favorable for them because, again, Juventus are the biggest bottlers of this Champions League this year. How they lost to PSV is beyond me. But give credit to Arsenal. They still have to get here. But I don't see them beating Real Madrid. I don't. At the Bernabeu especially, I just think, like, look, Manchester City have been such a great side over the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? And yet every time they go to the Bernabeu, that stage just seems to, like, swallow them up at times, right? Obviously, they've had success at the Bernabeu. They won 1 year. They drew 1 year. They drew twice, actually. But I just, like, they go there, and it's like, no matter how much better you think City might be to Real Madrid, the Bernabeu on a Champions League night with those players, it's so tough to go to. And that's Man City of the past few years. This Arsenal team as currently constructed with the current makeup of the team, the way they're approaching football games, I'm sorry, I don't see it. I don't see it. So I think Real Madrid go to the semifinal, and they will play the winner of PSG versus versus Aston Villa, who won, I think, 4-1 on aggregate on the night, or maybe it was 5-1 on aggregate. Anyways, they got business taken care of. Asensio with another goal. Bro, this guy, since he's come to Villa, has just lit it up. He's obviously going to play his former team, PSG. He's on loan from them, actually. It's going to be very interesting. But I think we're in for a PSG versus Real Madrid semifinal. Now, on the other side, it's going to be Dortmund versus Barcelona, as Dortmund got a huge win away from home against Lille, and Bayern versus Inter, rematch of the 2010 Champions League final. I don't want to discount Bayern because I made the mistake of saying that Leverkusen would beat them. I'll show them a little more respect. However, if you ask me, I give the edge to Inter. I do give the edge to Inter. I think in knockout football, they are well equipped to take care of most teams, and I do think we're going to get a Barca-Inter semifinal. Barca-Inter on one side, Real Madrid, PSG on the other. That's a tasty semifinal if we get it, man. But I'm looking forward to the quarters. Let's not jump ahead too much. Let me know what you guys think of tonight's result. Were Real Madrid lucky? Did Atletico Madrid deserve more from the tie? Or was it a fair result overall? And who do you think is going to progress through the quarterfinals? And also, let me know this. What's the quarterfinal tie you're most excited to see? For me, Bayern Munich versus Inter. I can't wait to watch that. I cannot wait to watch that. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know all my questions in the comment section down below. And I'll see you guys potentially tomorrow for Man United, depending on how they do against Real Sociedad. Peace.